Okay, we're back at the Ben and Jerry article, and I want to use this to illustrate how I would try to find the supporting points versus the data, because the summary is going to incorporate only the supporting points and then the main point. Now, a few bits of data may get into a good summary just to give it a concrete feel, but as a whole, it's going to be the main points and then the main point, the overarching message. So let's try to find those mid-level claims first, and you would look through the article that you would have to examine, read, summarize, and try to get rid of the data and keep the general claims. So take a look at this one right here. Remember, we looked at this, and there's a lot of data going on here, numbers, statistics, but then we get this claim right here. There is no energy crisis. So this is going to be a mid-level claim I need to just put it in a list. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go to a Word document here and start this list. Now, the first thing we need to be clear of is that there are two types of essays, right? Or two types of non-fiction short informative writing. There's the type that is purely journalistic, informative only. They just try to give you the who, what, when, where, how, why. They don't really try to the authors don't try to give you their opinion, or they don't try to persuade you of anything. They just are trying to give you what happened. It's got a very strong basis in history, current events, the actual event itself, not how they interpreted the event. And then you have opinion editorials, data plus a persuasive point the author is using the data to make. So first the author is going to give you the data, then the author is going to try to make a point with it, a message. You're going to try to support a message or convince you of a thesis. And that's what we have here with the Ben and Jerry. Now, what I would suggest you do when you're trying to write a good summary is to just pretty much, make a list of mid-level claims and just write them out. Now, we found one. There is no energy crisis. That's coming from paragraph 3. I know that's mid-level claimage because it doesn't have any numbers to it. It's not an historical fact. It's not a scientific conclusion. This is just Will's opinion he's reached when he looked at the numbers and when he defines things the way he does. So I'm going to put that up here. Now let's go back to the article. Let's take a look at this one right here. We examined this one earlier, this 5th paragraph, and we looked at how Clinton put coal off limits. All that's historical record. How Lippo from Indonesia, profited from selling coal to the United States now that the United States needed overseas coal instead of using its own, since Clinton put it off limits. So there's this data here, but can you see the general claim this paragraph is making right here? This is the claim that is a little more abstract, a little more general, and all of this stuff is trying to exemplify or illustrate or back up this claim. So I'm going to say this is a mid-level claim, and we'll go ahead and go to my list that I'm starting now, and we'll put it on. So there it is. Sometimes environmentalism is a cover for crude politics. This is paragraph 5 of that article we're looking at. Now let's go back to the article, find another one. Down at the very bottom of this first screen, by the way, I know they call them pages and all that, but these are not page numbers you should use if you use this in academic writing. You should, because this article, this online article, doesn't have stable page numbers because it's not a PDF and because it's not a handheld book, that sort of thing, or magazine, handheld magazine. You cannot depend on any sort of pagination. 1, 2 down here. We should just call those screen numbers. What you need to do when you're trying to pinpoint exactly where, say, a quotation you are using is coming from within the article, you need to count the paragraphs, and do that for most short online articles that exist solely online or primarily online. And that's the protocol that MLA is asking us to use. It's just count the paragraphs. So this is paragraph 9, and let's read it quickly. All right. It says opponents of increased energy production usually argue for decreased consumption, but they flinch from conservative measures. A new $1 gasoline tax would dampen demand for gasoline, but it would stimulate demands for the heads of the tax increasers. After all, Americans get irritable when impersonal market forces add 25 cents to the cost of a gallon. Tougher fuel efficiency requirements for vehicles would save a lot of energy. See, that can be shown just by watching the data come in. If you track how much energy is saved if you tighten up the fuel efficiency. See, so that's data. Who would save the legislators who passed those requirements? Beware the wrath of Americans who like to drive, and auto workers who like to make cars that are large, heavy, and safer than the gasoline sippers that environmentalists prefer. So what is he saying in this paragraph? Isn't he basically saying that environmentalists, right? Environmentalists want to decrease energy consumption, but they flinch from the measures they should take. Why? Because they are afraid of the wrath of Americans. Why? Because Will here is against the environmentalist who's also a politician. And politicians are afraid of losing their jobs because of getting voted out of their job. So Will is basically saying, they want these environmentalist politicians want to tighten our reins on energy use, but they're afraid of them taking the right measures because they're afraid of losing their job. So let's go and sorry for all that highlighting, but let's go to our list here and let's get that down. Can't we say this is another claim that he's making there? Environmentalist politicians are afraid of losing their jobs because of strict policies. Now, there are more mid-level claims. Maybe there are 5 or 6 actually that we could get from this article. You need to get all of them. And then from your list of mid-level claims, you would come down over here and write something like, top level claim. And you would look at the list you made and say, look, is there one of these, at this point I'm calling it a mid-level claim, but is there one of these mid-level claims that's really a little more general than the others? Is there one that all the others seem actually to be supporting when I look at it again and I think about it? Or if that's not the case, you would look at them and say, look, how would I sum up all these mid-level claims? How can I make a claim myself? Can I put it into words how I would sum up everything these claims are saying together? And then you might be able to come up with a thesis if it's not right in the list as one mid-level claim that you found. Because when an author writes his thesis into the article, it's going to look, at some point it may look like a mid-level claim. So you'll probably capture it somewhere in this list. But if you can sit back a little bit and say, this claim maybe, or that one, this one, it seems to be a little more general than the others. And in fact, now that I think about it, the others, this one, and this one, it seems to really be supporting this one. Well, that's your thesis. Why don't you work with that? So once you get this list down, which again, I'm telling you, there are probably 4 or 5 or 6 total that we need to get in here, but I'm not going to do it in this example. We can go down here and say, the top level claim is, and then you write out the thesis. The thesis is, and I'm not going to do it because I would like you to try to do it, but sometimes the thesis you can just pull it from this list. But if you can't, then you can just look at this list in totality and say, now what really are all of these together? What are they all saying? What's the point that all of these are really supporting? And then write that out, and that would be your thesis.